it says the girl with the gun? You know what? You need to calm down.
No way, calm down, man.
Welcome everyone for being here today. Thank you so much. Our theme this evening is making peace, and a big thank you and virtual round of applause to director Judah Ray. He directed Making Peace. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, and a big congratulations are in order because your film has been nominated for Best Short Film, Best Period Hair, MUA, Best Period Costume Design, and Best Cinematography. I mean, you took them all home with you, didn't you?
Well, hopefully, you know, that was the dream with the film, was to make every little tiny piece of it as artistic as possible. Nothing was really left unchecked. I always like to say, when the Audi TT first came out, they prided themselves that everything down to the screws were custom designed. And that was kind of an example I used when we were putting the film together, that I wanted every little tiny piece to be as dialed in as possible and not just thrown in to be used, but actually like thought about and processed and put out there in the right way.
Isn't that just the best part? I mean, that's why we do it, is to show people a way of living through a different lens. And being, as we were talking about earlier today, a guardian of someone else's story as well. We have a big responsibility as filmmakers to share the story in an appropriate way that has truth there as well, that rings honest to the human experience.
It's weird when you resonate with people and they come after watching the film, or even after reading the script when we were just in that stage of development, and the way they would relate to the story was always amazing to me, because so many people have so much insight with art and how it makes them feel in relation to their own personal human experience. And it was, at first it was very scary because I didn't know. I mean, the first time I had the reaction happen, it was with Making Peace. The financier called me bawling. Huge guy, 6'3", Southside Chicago, talks like macho Randy Man Savage. Oh yeah, this is what we're gonna do, Judah. Like, it's pretty amazing. Calls me bawling that the story touched him and that he had to do some actions in his own life because of the story. Made him take action in his own life. That's his story to tell what he did, but that he had to make the movie because of the feelings that he felt and what it drove him to want to do in his life, and he had to share that experience, and that blew my mind.
Whose story is this? Is this something from your life that you need closure to, or is this a story that just came out of your wonderful head?
It started off, honestly, with an epiphany of running out of gas is like running out of time in life. It was what it grew from. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's great. Like, I love that. So what if I had someone who ran out of gas and they're on the side of the road and it's a metaphor that they've died? Okay, well, that's really cool. Well, how do they know they're dead? Oh, well, someone comes by and picks them up. Okay, so it's a story about two people. One of them's dead and the other one is going to tell them that they're dead. Okay, and that's where I start at. And then once I have that kind of idea, because I've been told, some people start with characters, they have great characters, or they have great worlds. A lot of my ideas start off with a twist, with some kind of metaphor or some weird way to go, oh, I can make the audience go down this whole track. And then in the end, they think it's this, but it's that. And and I get this great twist. And then I go, okay, how do my characters end up in this twist? Who are my characters that end up in this twist? And it all just kind of just grows and grows and grows until I have an idea, not an outline yet, but an idea of kind of who my characters are, which is, you got to explain that through your exposition. So where did they start? And then once that comes, how did they get to where my twist is? And what's the resolution after that? Once I kind of have those in place, it's just straight up go in and it all just writes itself.
Oh my word. That's so wonderful to hear. I mean, it absolutely has the power to touch everyone's kind of soul and lifeblood, no matter what walk of life they're from, because we all deal with the theme of tradition and parental expectation. as well. I mean, that's just, it's part of the cyclical, loop that is living and rebirth. So it was really, really beautiful to take away, to see what others took away from it as well. Very specifically.
That you got all that and you saw all that within it, especially because, I mean, I wrote it, I directed, I produced it. So, juggling all those hats, you get scared that you're going to miss a step. And I'm so happy with the response that we're getting. I'm so happy. Thank you to the ReelHeART Film Festival for even just giving a nod to the film and showing the film. Filmmakers out there know what I'm talking about. Just, I don't care where I get or how I get, I'm still blown away. People want to watch my art and see my work and love my stories, and it still touches me in such a humbling way that I get really emotional. It's beautiful to me because I have a very hard upbringing, I guess you can say. I have a very spotted past, and I came out of that into the film world and grew. And to be where I'm at now and be in this place where, I mean, there's even a couple people listening to me, let alone I'm doing something like this is really just, it's mind blowing and it's awesome. And I'm so happy that y'all like the film.
I'm so glad. Well, you can definitely tell that it was a family experience. You could, yeah, in more ways than one. In more ways than one, but you could tell it had soul and heart, and that each layer of the film, from sound to makeup to hair to how stylized, from the tie-dye headband to the old, it's so vintage. It was just so classic, iconic across the board. That car, but each car, like the symbolism behind even which cars they were driving. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Let me tell you, Mel, it came down to the cars, of course. It's all of our dreams. We all have our dream cars that we think are so cool. So that was a really fun time, was picking those cars out that I wanted them to drive. And the funniest thing is about the cars, I had rented a 1956 Chevy Bel Air, cherry red on white with cherry red interior convertible. Beautiful car, beautiful car. On the day of shooting, I picked it up because I wanted to drive it. I'm driving it to set and it blew up on the freeway about 10 miles from my house on the way to set. So not only did our show car blow up, but the director was in the car, so I wasn't on set. So I was late to set that day. Luckily, my team pulled together another car, which ended up being, I mean, that Lincoln was iconic with the suicide doors.
Completely.
Then the VW bus, we had a 13 window VW. It might have been a 10. It's spacing me right now, but it was a original everything. Even the front windows flapped open. Every window opened on it. VW. The cars that we pulled out from the car rental spot with the old police cars. Oh, those police cars were awesome.
Really cool.
And then just wardrobe, my brother and me pulling stuff out of the old wardrobe places in Los Angeles and going around on Amazon and looking at anything that looked vintage and then getting it. And thank God with my girlfriend's help, just working the dresses and working all the stuff. And I had pictures I had picked of what I imagined all these people to look like and wear. And we're trying to match it to like anything we can on Amazon and ordering multiples of them and sending stuff back. And then like the dresses had a white stitch in them. And the white stitch was going to show up on the camera all twitchy. So we actually sat there with because marker, it was like a plastic stitch. So ink, dye, marker, nothing would dye this stitch white except for eyeliner. So we took a bunch of mascara, like eyeliner, and sat there with mascara pens and just like on 4 different dresses, got that stitch to go away and be black. And it was crazy. But like I said, all the way down to, the cinematography, and we worked it out to where we had found Kawa anamorphic lenses from the 60s. And we had rehoused those lenses to be able to fit on the Alexa. So when we shot, we were shooting through classic lenses. That's why it has like a really authentic classic look, even though it was shot on digital video, you know, glass, glass, glass. It's all about your lens, people.
Well, we absolutely loved the final product. And we were talking about a little bit about symbolism. I would love to get a little more into that. Because everything, you can tell, every single moment, as you said, means something and is artistic and is maybe you know, a metaphor for something.
These films nowadays, I find in my own ideology, are just falling short of being able to let the audience figure things out for themselves. And we're getting lazy as audiences. We want everything spelled out to us. Someone really smart once told me that there's 3 types of experiences in a film. There's what the main character goes through. There's what the antagonist goes through. And then there's what the audience goes through. And a lot of people forget that third part of what the audience goes through when they're making their films. They're so busy with the characters are going through and the antagonists and the whole story, they forget that you can play with the audience, what they know, what they don't know, when you let them in the stuff, and take them on more of a ride than just the story. And I love that kind of film. To me, one of my biggest things that I care about, I know my protagonist is going to do what my protagonist does, and I know my antagonist is going to do what my antagonist does. I know my story, I know my plot, I know where I'm going. My biggest concern is how the audience is going to feel the whole time throughout my story and the experience that they're having throughout, you know, the film that I made. And that's a big concern to me. And maybe it's a big concern to everybody, but it's definitely something that I care about within the confines of the stories and the way that I present those stories.
Can we talk a little bit about the cast and crew, the diversity in this, and the conversation behind that? We have 2 opposites coming together to make a beautiful, beautiful scene. From the choice in car, from the you know, the black muscle car, and the van as well. Yeah, can you go a little bit into the symbolism all across the board and the diversity there as well?
I grew up never really questioning diversity. I always was around diversity. I mean, I rolled with Mexicans before I was a teenager, and I rolled around Compton when I was a teenager. And I mean, I've done the experience, and I've been on both sides of the track, and I've kicked into every race that I can imagine. And I've traveled the world a lot. So to me, diversity is just kind of, I always like to say, you know, me trying to remember when I learned about diversity is me trying to remember the first time I tried a banana. You know, it was just always there, you know, something from a little baby. And, you know, throughout my years of working in entertainment, I started in music. I started breaking in the warehouses and doing rave parties, and grew out of that as a producer into film. But I never booked a DJ and called one of my agents and said, "Hey, I really like this guy's music. Are they Black? Is this a girl?" Like, I never did that. Diversity and inclusion, if we're going to do it, needs to be about equality. You know, it needs to be about everyone and everything. It needs to be about truth, is what I'm really trying to get to. And that truth is nothing is all white, nothing is all Black, nothing is all Asian.
What have you learned about yourself as a human being and as a filmmaker through the making of this film?
You know, when I first got into filmmaking, it was about ego and about being a producer and about controlling the scene and making big money and doing big films. There was a lot of ego involved in it. And then it all kind of circulated down into making peace, where I learned why I make film and why I tell stories, and what my true passion was within all of this. Wasn't about the power, wasn't about producing, it wasn't about any of that. It was about really bringing together a group of people that all believed the same thing and felt the same way about something, and creating a project with them that had the possibility of changing lives and changing thoughts and making an impact. And you know, to kind of put it all together in one statement, I've always been about changing the world. A-Level Pictures is changing the film one world at a time, is what, you know, the first thing I came up with when I started building the company 30 years ago. But I've learned now that changing the world doesn't mean that you change everything all at once, or you make the biggest impact worldwide. You know, you can change one person at a time.
Life is a gift basket factory, and you're working the conveyor belt. The baskets are the moments in your life, and you worry about the baskets that are coming at you, and you can't fill the baskets in front of you with good gifts. Worry about the baskets that are passed, and more baskets get messed up. Best you can do is worry about the baskets in front of you. Fill it with its best gifts, and send it on down the line.
As filmmakers, we all hold ourselves up to an expectation in this light against these people that live these lifestyles and do these huge films, and we beat ourselves up because we didn't win awards, or we didn't win the big tier 1 awards, only won tier 2, or maybe you didn't win an award, or maybe you never even finished editing your film, and we beat ourselves up. But you don't understand how many people out there are just in awe that you even made a film, that you even got a group together to film something and made scenes, let alone distributed it. So I just want to tell everyone, just pat yourselves on the back. Whatever you've done, if you've written a screenplay, if you've made a short film and got it out there on the internet, maybe only 100 people saw it, but man, you did something. It's the little tiny nuances. It's the tiny things that you do as a filmmaker, as a screenwriter, as a director, even as a producer when you pick projects, that those tiny little things, you do them and you hope people see them, and you're like, no one's gonna get that. Like there's a keychain in making peace. There's a freaking keychain that he uses on his keys that I picked up one day, and I was like, oh, look what it says, embrace the suck. That's so cool. Like, it's a military term, but it goes with what I'm doing here. And so, I made him put it on the keys, and I'm like, no one's gonna see it. No one's gonna care. No one's gonna. And I've actually had 2 people comment on it. One, that he got the entendre and the metaphor I was using with it, and it affected him so much. And I was like, you got that. You saw the keychain.
We really enjoyed this one. If you haven't seen it, audience, go and watch it right now. It is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Melanie, thanks for having me and being such a great moderator.